My name is Mike. I'm 74 years old, and what I'm going to tell you now may seem unbelievable. But I ask that before you judge, you just listen to me. Because what experienced that day was not a dream, nor a hallucination. It was real as your breath now. I died. Yes, my heart stopped. My vision went black, and suddenly I was falling. An endless fall into a void where the heat burned more than fire. The air was heavy, the ground didn't exist, and the screams still echo inside me, as if 1,000 souls were begging for something they could no longer have. I couldn't understand what was happening. Everything in me screamed for help, but there was no help. The pain, the fear, the regret, everything crushed me at the same time. I was in hell. Yes, that place that so many think is a metaphor or invention. I was there. And I'll tell you, no human words can describe what it feels like in that abyss. Time didn't pass. There was no day, no night, just despair. But what struck me most was not what I saw in hell. That's what I saw in the sky a minute later, because I was there too. And it was there, between shadows and light, that everything made sense. There, I realized how much of my life I had let go, how much I ignored what really mattered. And now, if you're listening to me, it's because maybe this story needs to reach you. Maybe what I experienced wasn't just for me. If you think this is crazy, that's fine. I thought so too. But after what I saw, I was never the same. And if you allow me, I want to tell you every detail. Because what I saw completely changed the way I see life, death, and everything in between. And maybe, just maybe, it will also change the way you see the world. If you feel like time is passing too quickly, perhaps this message is for you. Sign up now, because after today, you'll never see the world through the same eyes again. It wasn't easy to accept what I experienced. Not even. For decades, I was just one of the crowd. I worked hard, paid the bills with my paycheck, loved my wife with everything I was, and tried to be the best grandfather I could to my grandchildren. My life was normal, simple, and, in a way, comfortable. I never considered myself someone spiritual. He didn't believe in heaven or hell, nor did he think about what would come after death. This was something for those who had time to spare. I only believed in what I could touch, see, calculate. I've always been like this, practical, rational. I believed that everything could be explained. And maybe that's why what happened to me shook me so much. Because that day, my mind was turned inside out. Everything I believed in fell apart in seconds. The logic, the reason, the certainties that I had built over a lifetime. Everything slipped through my fingers like sand. And now, with my heart more open than ever, I understand that what I experienced was not just an experience. It was a calling, a scream from the unseen, shaking me inside and saying, "Wake up, Mike, there's still time." Today, if you are here, listening to me, perhaps the story is not just mine. Maybe she came to you for a reason you don't yet understand. Maybe it's a warning, a chance, a sign that there is something bigger trying to wake us up, take us out of the hypnosis of everyday life. Because living without reflecting is like crossing a bridge blindfolded. And I lived like this for too long. But now everything has changed. And if you've ever felt that emptiness in your chest, that feeling that you're just existing but not really living, then maybe this is your time too. Your chance to see the world with different eyes. Because life goes much further than it seems. And I want to show you this. But first, let me extend an invitation to you. Stay here with me. Don't deviate. Because what I'm going to tell you next might be exactly what you needed to hear. I have always been practical. A man of logic, numbers, and certainties. No religion, no faith. It trusted only what could be measured, weighed, proven. While many sought answers in churches, in prayers, and signs from the universe, I preferred statistics, facts, science. I never felt empty because of it. On the contrary, there was something comforting about living in a reality I could understand, control. I followed rules, fulfilled obligations, and I thought that is enough. People around me, especially the more religious ones in the family, said I needed to believe in something bigger. That life wasn't just the sequence of days in which we wake up, work, pay bills, and sleep. But for me, it was exactly that. Life was what it was. There was no mystery. It was a cycle that began and ended. And then, nothing. Whenever I heard stories of people who said they had seen the tunnel, the light, or even hell, I smiled inside. I thought it was beautiful that they wanted to believe that. It made me a little envious of this blind faith, this hope. But me? I laughed. Don't laugh out of spite, but out of conviction. I truly believe these stories were the result of desperation, fear, or a broken mind trying to find comfort. And maybe you think so too. Maybe you think that all of this is just an illusion, an invention of the human mind in the face of the unknown. And you want talk now? I understand. Because as much as I went through everything I'm going to tell you today, I've been exactly where you are now. Do you believe there is something after death? Some greater force guiding us, watching us, or just waiting for the right moment to make us wake up? If you believe it or not, write it in the comments. I want to know. In truth, because before all this happened to me, I never imagined that one day I would be here, telling something so out of my reality. And maybe that's precisely why you should keep listening. Because this story doesn't come from someone who has always believed. It doesn't come from a preacher, nor from a mystic. It comes from someone who laughs at these things. It comes from someone like you, who only believed in what the eyes could see. But that day, when my heart stopped and everything went dark, the first thing I saw was hell. And nothing would be the same after that. It was on a random Saturday. One of those simple, peaceful days that no one expects will change everything. My wife had prepared the children's favorite lunch. The house was full of laughter, good smells coming from the kitchen, and that delicious mess of a family together. He was in the living room, with my grandson on my lap, listening to him tell the same story about a cartoon for the 1000th time. And I laughed. In truth, it was one of those moments that seem eternal, but they weren't. Because, out of nowhere, I felt a strange pressure in my chest. At first, I thought it was just tiredness. I took a deep breath, tried to hide it. I didn't want to scare anyone. But the discomfort turned into pain. A deep, growing pain, as if something inside me was being squeezed mercilessly. My vision began to blur. The voices around me seemed distant, muffled, as if I were sinking in water. And that's when I heard it. A scream. Sharp, desperate. It was my granddaughter. She called my name. Again and again. Grandpa, Grandpa. And then, everything went dark. I don't know how much time has passed. Maybe seconds, maybe hours. I just know that when I opened my eyes, I wasn't there anymore. I no longer saw my wife's face, nor the children's frightened looks. Nothing from my house. Nothing from the world I knew. I was falling. A slow and continuous fall, as if there was no floor, no end. The air was heavy, dense. Every breath was an effort. And the smell, that smell, sulfur. An unbearable stench, like burnt flesh mixed with something I don't even know how to describe. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. There were voices. Many voices. Some screamed, cried. Others whispered my name. Some I recognized. People who were part of my life, and who I would ever have imagined meeting there. The face of a former coworker, a distant uncle, and even the neighbor who always said good morning to me. Everyone there. Lost. Or maybe convicted. The walls of that place seemed alive. They breathed. They moved. And then, the eyes, hundreds of them, scattered everywhere. Watching me. Cold. Empty. Judging me. And I understood. Even without anyone telling me, I was in hell. It wasn't a dream, nor a delusion. It was real. So real that to this day, I can feel the weight of that place in my chest. And at that moment, something inside me began to shatter. Because, for the first time, I realized that everything I never believed in was in front of me. In the middle of that suffocating darkness, where time seemed to not exist and the air burned inside my lungs, something changed. I felt completely lost, immersed in that torment, when I noticed a presence. It wasn't immediate, like someone who appears suddenly. It was as if she'd been there the whole time, only now I could see her. A figure began to form in the dim light. Tall, shrouded in dense shadow, and yet there was something about her that held me attention. I couldn't make out his face clearly, but I felt his gaze. It was a heavy, firm look, but sad, deeply sad. As if that figure carried an old pain, as if it knew exactly everything I had done and what I hadn't done. And then she spoke. He didn't scream. He didn't whisper. I just said my name. Mike. Just that. But that sound went through me like lightning. It was as if someone had ignited a memory that was hidden inside me. And at that moment, something happened. I was taken over by a force that I cannot explain. I didn't walk. I didn't run. I was pulled from that abyss, as if an invisible hand had grabbed me by the soul. And the darkness began to disappear. The pain, the smell of sulfur, the screams, it all receded, as if being sucked into a whirlpool. In place of the void, a light appeared. First weak, then intense. A light that, curiously, didn't come from outside. It came from inside. And it hurt. It hurt like I was cleaning myself inside. But at the same time, there was peace. A peace I had never felt. I was climbing. Ascending through a formless space, without time, just being carried away by something that seemed bigger than everything. That's when I got there. I can't say where it was. It wasn't heaven with clouds and angels laying harps, but it was heaven, a real heaven, because there was no fear. There was truth. And before me, as if it were a living screen, my life began to be projected, scene by scene, moment by moment. Every choice, every word, every look I gave or didn't give. I saw my childhood. I saw my youth. I saw the way I treated my wife at the beginning of our marriage and how I drifted away from her in recent years, stuck in an empty routine. I saw me children's smiles and the times they didn't return them. I saw my grandchildren running around the room and the days when I pretended I didn't have time to play. But what hurt me most was seeing the omissions. Those moments when I knew I had to act and remain silent. When I could have defended someone and failed. When I could have loved, but I chose silence. The indifference, and then a question echoed. I don't know where it came from. I didn't see anyone. But the voice resonated inside me like a hammer to the soul. Is this what you want to leave as a legacy, Mike? That destroyed me inside. Because, in that instant, I understood. I understood that life is not limited to what we achieve, accumulate, or show to others. Life is what we leave in people. And what I was leaving was little. It was almost nothing. And you? Have you ever experienced a moment when voices whispered in your ear, even when no one was around? Write in the comments. I really want to know your story. In heaven, everything was different. There was no time, there was no rush, there was no pain. But there was something I had never experienced with such intensity, the truth. A truth that could not be hidden, disguised, or explained with excuses. It was as if my soul was completely naked before myself. And it was in this state that I saw, projected like a living film, what my life really was. Not just the big moments, the ones we post, celebrate, or use astrophies, but every moment, every detail, every choice. It was a kind of screen made off-light, but the images that appeared on it were so real, so vivid, that I could almost touch them. I saw from my birth until my last breath. I saw the joy on my mother's face as she held me for the first time. I saw my first step, my first mistake, my first love. But it didn't stop there. Every time I hurt someone with harsh words, every time I stopped listening, every time I was impatient, cold, or simply absent, it was all there. And it was impossible to look away. But the most surprising thing was also seeing the gestures that I didn't even remember. A smile I gave to a stranger in the market. An unexpected hug I gave to a friend on a difficult day. A seemingly silly piece of advice that changed the course of someone's life. Everything was registered. All. And at that moment I understood. Every act, every word, every silence leaves a mark. Nothing goes unnoticed. Nothing is insignificant. The life we live on the outside is just a shadow of the life we imprint on others. And that's when I ask you, and I want you to think honestly, if your life were projected now, like mine was in that place, would you have the courage to watch? Could you face your own gestures and omissions without looking away? Because there, in that timeless sky, everything we are appears clearly. And you can't pretend anymore. A voice, serene and at the same time firm, echoed inside me as if it had come from everywhere and, at the same time, from the center of my soul. You still have time, Mike. But you need to change. These words were not just heard, they were felt. As if they went straight into my chest, cutting through every layer of regret, pride, and ignorance I had accumulated over the years. And, in the blink of an eye, as if it had all been just a breath of eternity, I felt my body being pulled back. The light disappeared. The cozy warmth turned to cold. And then, suddenly, I opened my eyes. The sound of the machines, the smell of the hospital, the white light of the ICU. I was back. There were tubes in my mouth, and my breathing was shallow. Everything hurt. My eyes burned, my head swam, but none of that mattered to me. Because what hurt most was what I carried inside. Beside my bed, my wife was crying. Her hands shook, and her face showed desperate relief. She was there, waiting for me, loving me, forgiving myself for all the days when I was present in body, but absent in soul. And the first thing I thought was, there's still time. There's still time to do something different. To look into the eyes of the people I love and really see them. To live with purpose and not just fulfill obligations. In that moment, lying among tubes and machines, I made a silent promise to myself. I will no longer live on automatic. I will no longer hide behind the excuse of being tired, of work, of never having enough time. Because now I know. I know that heaven and hell are not just destinations. They are realities that we begin to build in life, in the choices we make, in the paths we follow. And the real judgment, it doesn't happen after death. It starts now. Every time we have the chance to change and we don't. Each time we can love and choose to ignore. Every time life calls us and we turn away. If you've made it this far, it's because this story touched you in some way. Maybe not because of the supernatural details. Perhaps not by the visions of hell or the lights off heaven. But because deep down you know something is missing. That there is something inside screaming for meaning, for truth, for change. And that's why I ask you now, directly and sincerely, what are you doing with the time you still have? Are you really living? With an open heart, with intention, with presence? Or are you just getting through the days, surviving, waiting for something to change on its own? I'm not here to preach anything. I am not a pastor. I am not a teacher, nor the owner of any truth. I'm just a 74-year-old man who got a second chance, who saw what no one wanted to see, and who, for some reason, came back. Maybe to remind you of this, time is like a balloon in the field. He's on his feet now, and you can choose what to do with it. You can kick with courage. You can pass it on with love. Or you can stand still, hesitating, until time runs out. And then, my friend, maybe I won't come back. Forgive. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because it won't come. Love, even if it hurts, even if it seems too late. Reconcile. Call, hug. Say what needs to be said. Don't leave for tomorrow what could be a miracle today. Because, as I learned the hard way, judgment doesn't come with lightning and thunder. It comes in silence, when life gives you a new chance, and you need to choose what you're going to do with it. If this message made sense to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share. Someone may need to hear this today. Someone could be one step away from giving up, and maybe this story is what will hold them back. And if you want to continue this journey with me, subscribe to the channel here. Click now, because next door is another prophetic revelation that could forever change the way you see life. I'll wait for you there. And remember, there's still time, but time doesn't wait.